And in a world exclusive, Australia's Channel 7 will air a never-before-seen look at Meghan Markle this Sunday, featuring an extraordinary message from her family, including Thomas Markle, her dad, who I'm glad to report is re-finding his voice. So have a look at the bombshell trailer, which has just been released.
The world has never seen Meghan like this. The homecoming queen. The Markle family reunite.
This would be your last interview ever.
Treasured memories, home truths, and secret tapes are all coming out.
She would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
We're not going to go away. This is going to change everything.
They're really unhealthy for each other. It's a toxic relationship.
Dad's deathbed plea to the daughter he lost.
How can I fix this?
Thomas Markle just cracked open one of the strangest questions surrounding his daughter, and once you hear it, there's no closing the door again. According to him, the world wasn't just introduced to the wrong version of Meghan, not just the wrong personality, not just the wrong narrative, but the wrong age. And that one detail, so basic that nobody thought to challenge it, quietly shaped everything that came after. Hollywood, royalty, the carefully polished rise. This isn't gossip dressed up as theory, and it isn't speculation whispered in corners. It's math. Cold, unbending math. And once that math starts to unravel the timeline, the entire story starts wobbling. When fathers talk about their daughters, there's usually warmth, nostalgia, softness. But when Thomas Markle speaks, it's different. There's no shouting, no theatrical anger. It sounds like a man staring at a clock that's been wrong for decades and finally saying out loud, "This doesn't add up." And when someone who lived the days, marked the birthdays, remembers the years differently than the official record, you can't just brush it aside. You can feel it shift something under your feet.
Love both my daughters. I'm not happy with what one of my daughters is doing. And I don't know what caused her to do this. We've had this conversation before. She's telling lies.
Thomas remembers his daughter long before cameras followed her, long before palace walls and royal titles entered the picture. He remembers ordinary time, school years, birthdays, milestones that don't lie because they're lived, not curated. And when Meghan became famous and her official biography hardened into something unquestioned, something tugged at him. The ages didn't sit right, the timing felt off, and instead of screaming it from rooftops, he corrected the record the way a parent does when they know they're right, calmly, carefully, like someone stating a fact, not launching an attack. He suggested that the version of Meghan presented to the world, the perfectly synchronized transformation from actress to duchess, might not be the full picture. And once a father plants that seed, you can't unhear it. That's where the story really starts to crack open. Let's rewind to March 1997. Teenagers everywhere were flipping through 17 magazines, sprawled across bedroom floors, lockers plastered with cutouts and dreams. Buried deep inside, on page 90, sat a simple list of names, young women stepping into the spotlight. And there it was, Meghan Markle, age 21. At first glance, it's nothing, just another hopeful face. But then you stop, you calculate, because according to the official story repeated everywhere today, Meghan Markle was born August 4th, 1981. That would make her 15 in March of 1997. Not 21, 15. A 6-year gap isn't a typo. It's not someone rounding up. It's not a small mistake that slips through editing. It's a canyon. And this wasn't a blog post that could be quietly updated later. It was ink, printed, sold nationwide, archived long before Meghan ever became a duchess, long before anyone had reason to question her timeline. That number is still there, frozen on the page. And once you see it, the entire narrative shifts. Her education timeline shifts. Her Hollywood entry shifts. Suddenly, she's not a wide-eyed teenager starting out. She's an older woman navigating an industry brutal about age. And that single printed number begs a question no one has answered. Why is it there at all? Now put the two versions side by side. Version 1 is the official one everyone knows by heart. Born August 4th, 1981, making her 44 in 2025. This version is everywhere. Biographies, palace records, profiles treated like stone tablets, solid, untouchable. Then there's version 2, printed quietly decades ago, listing her as 21 in 1997. That places her birth around 1975 or 1976, which means today she wouldn't be in her mid-40s. She'd be approaching 50, and that changes everything. It changes how old she was when she graduated, how old she was breaking into acting, how old she was when she married Prince Harry. And most critically, how old she was during her pregnancies. This isn't judgment, it's arithmetic. Numbers don't argue, they don't get offended, they just sit there, waiting. And if one part of the story was adjusted, it forces you to ask what else was smoothed over. Age can be softened with lighting, photos can be retouched, biographies can be rewritten. But pregnancy doesn't care about branding. In medicine, there's a term that sounds harsh but isn't meant to be: geriatric pregnancy. It simply means pregnancy over 35. It doesn't guarantee problems, but it changes everything about how doctors proceed. More monitoring, more caution, no improvisation. If Meghan was born in the early 1980s, she would have been in her late 30s, already considered higher risk. But if she was born in the mid-1970s, she would have been well into her 40s. That's not a minor detail. At that age, pregnancy is handled with extreme care. Hospitals don't rush, they don't experiment, and they certainly don't bend protocol for storytelling. Which brings us to where the narrative really starts to unravel: the hospital. The Portland Hospital isn't a fairy tale backdrop. It's private, elite, yes, but it's still governed by medical rules that don't bend for titles. According to someone familiar with how things actually work inside those walls, the public version of events simply doesn't align with reality. Prince Harry described the birth as serene, almost spa-like, candles glowing, birthing balls, calm energy. 2 epidurals, a quick recovery, then, incredibly, a return home within a couple of hours. To someone unfamiliar with medicine, it sounds comforting. To anyone who understands hospital protocol, it sounds impossible. Epidurals aren't something you stack, they're continuous. Once administered, monitoring is constant. Walking immediately afterward isn't typical. Leaving shortly after is even less so. And Portland Hospital doesn't allow wellness-style births for mothers considered high risk. That's not cruelty, that's protocol. When insiders heard the story, alarms didn't go off emotionally. They went off practically. Hospitals run on procedure, not poetry. And when a story doesn't fit procedure, it's not being told to document reality. It's being told to manage perception. In Harry's retelling, the birth of Archie felt cinematic. Candles, calm, a peaceful room that sounded more like a retreat than a ward. 2 epidurals, a smooth delivery, and a quiet exit back to Frogmore within 2 hours. It was flawless. Too flawless. Because real life, especially medical reality, is never that neat. Hospitals don't move at the speed of storytelling. They move at the speed of safety. Every detail raised questions, not cruel ones, not conspiratorial ones, practical ones. The drive alone from Portland Hospital to Frogmore Cottage can take nearly an hour. That means labor, delivery, recovery, observation, and discharge would all need to happen in less than 60 minutes. That's not how childbirth works. After an epidural, patients are monitored until sensation returns and vitals stabilize. Walking immediately isn't normal. Leaving almost immediately is unheard of. And the idea of 2 epidurals stacked doesn't align with medical practice. When you lay the timeline next to reality, it doesn't bend, it breaks. And when a story collapses under simple math, it stops being about memory slips and starts being about presentation. Then comes the most serious issue: preeclampsia, a condition involving dangerously high blood pressure that can turn life-threatening without warning. When it's suspected, everything changes. Magnesium sulfate, constant monitoring, no early discharge, no candles, no wellness themes. If Meghan experienced high blood pressure or preeclampsia, as has been suggested, there is no scenario, none, where she would be cleared to leave a hospital hours after giving birth. This isn't opinion, it's protocol. Hospitals don't gamble with lives. They observe, they document, they wait. So if the medical risk was real, the public timeline isn't just unlikely, it's impossible. By now, the pattern is impossible to ignore. An age that doesn't quite line up, a timeline polished smooth, a birth story that reads like a script instead of a chart. Individually, each detail might be dismissed. Together, they point to something else entirely. Not chaos, control. This isn't about proving lies, it's about noticing edits. When an image has to appear flawless, messy truths become inconvenient, and when inconvenient details pile up, they don't vanish, they get managed. Thomas Markle spoke as a father correcting a clock. A magazine printed a number long before anyone was watching. A hospital insider pointed out procedures that don't bend for storytelling. And through it all, silence followed instead of clarification. Maybe the story wasn't meant to be remembered as it happened. Maybe it was meant to be remembered as it needed to appear. Ink may define official records, but pencil leaves traces. And once you tilt the page toward the light, Once you see the faint lines beneath the surface, you can never unsee them. This isn't about tearing anyone down. It's about realizing how carefully a public image can be constructed, brick by brick, number by number, until it feels untouchable. But history has a habit of leaving fingerprints behind: old magazines, old memories, old procedures that don't bend. And once those fingerprints start to overlap, they form an outline that can't be erased. You don't have to shout to change a story. Sometimes all it takes is letting the numbers speak for themselves.